Hello students, welcome to the third session for 9th standard science for the chapter the tissues. Well, up till now we have discussed very well about the plant tissues, the meristematic and the permanent tissues and their various subtopics. Further on, we went on into the animal tissues and there we dealt with the epithelial tissue and the nervous tissue. Now today our main focus of attention is the connective tissue and the muscular tissue. So focusing on the first one, that is the connective tissue. Now this is the entire chart of the connective tissue and its various subtypes. So if you observe it out very carefully, the connective tissue is basically categorized into the three major types. The liquid connective tissue, mainly consisting of the blood and the lymph. The skeletal connective tissue consisting of the bones and the cartilages. And the proper connective tissue consisting of the tendons, the ligaments, the areolar connective tissue and the adipose connective tissue. Now focusing on the first one, that is the blood. Now blood is a connective tissue. It is a liquid connective tissue. It is mainly red in color because of the presence of hemoglobin and it is a living connective tissue. So these are the basic characteristics of the blood. Now what blood does? Blood helps in the transport of various substances from one part of the body to the other part. What are these substances? These substances are the respiratory gases like the O2 and the CO2. Further, it also helps in the transport of the various nutrients and the hormones also. So let us go into the crux of the blood. Now this blood is mainly categorized into the two basic constituents, the blood plasma and the blood cells. Blood plasma mainly consisting of large amount of the water contents as well as with a lot of minerals and the salts also. Furthermore, talking about the blood cells. Now the blood cells are of three basic types. The red blood cells, the white blood cells and the blood platelets. Now talking about the red blood cells. Now the red blood cells are mainly red because of the presence of hemoglobin content that is inside it. And it mainly does the function of the transport of the respiratory gases like O2 and CO2. Furthermore, the WBCs, white blood cells, they are said to be the soldiers of the body. So whenever there is any sort of infection or inflammation, the soldiers of the body, that is the WBCs, it protects the body by producing a lot of antibodies. Furthermore, the blood platelets, whenever there is any sort of blood that is coming outside from our body, that is the external bleeding, if it is taking place, it does not take place for a very long period of time. It stops after a particular interval of time. So that stopping of the blood, that clotting of the blood is mainly taking place by means of the blood platelets. Now the blood flows by means of the blood vessels also, that is the arteries, veins and the blood capillaries. Moving on to the second fluid of the body, that is the lymph. Now lymph is mainly colorless in nature and having less amount of proteins than the blood. And just as the blood has blood vessels, exactly in a similar way the lymph has lymph vessels which are distributed throughout the body. Now what lymph does? Lymph mainly protects the body from the harmful diseases. So it mainly increases our immunity and it also helps in the transport of various substances from one part of the body to the other part also. Now the second major connective tissue, that is the skeletal connective tissue. Now the skeletal connective tissue exclusively mainly consists of the bones and the cartilage. Now talking about the bones and the cartilage together in the form of the differences. Now if you observe the bones and the cartilage in our body, bones are generally hard in nature while the cartilage are generally soft in nature. So where are these bones and cartilage basically present? So in the body of a human being, the bones are present in the entire internal portions, mainly supporting the entire body, while the cartilages are the structures that are present in between the bones, that is mainly present at the joints. Furthermore, these cartilage are also present at the ear region as well as at the tip of the nose also. So the next major difference is that the bones are not flexible while the cartilage is highly flexible. That is the movement of the ear and the movement of the tip of the nose. That is because of the cartilage that is present inside it. Furthermore, the bone cells are said to be the osteocytes and the cartilage cells are said to be the chondrocytes. Well, moving on to the next major tissue, that is the proper connective tissue. Now this proper connective tissue also consists of four basic types. The first two we shall discuss, that is the tendons and the ligaments. Now talking about the tendons, one small formula is there for the tendons, that is the BMT. Now what is this BMT? Basically the muscles are attached on the surface of the bones by means of the tendons. So that is, it is BMNT. Likewise for the ligaments, it is starting from L. So here also one small formula is there, that is the BBL. So the two bones are mainly connected with each other by means of the ligaments. Now both of them are important structures and they are responsible for increasing the strength of the entire human body. Moving on to the next one, that is the adipose tissue. Now this adipose tissue is also said to be the fatty tissues. They are responsible for generating the fat in our body and it helps in the insulation also. So where they are mainly located? They are present under the skin regions. So the fat of our body is nothing but the adipose tissue. And moving on to the next one, that is the areolar connective tissue. Now this areolar connective tissue, it is mainly present between the skin regions, between and around the muscles also, in the internal regions of various internal organs also. And here a lot of cells are there which are responsible for increasing and enhancing the immunity of our body. Furthermore, moving on into the last animal tissue, that is the muscular tissue. Now from the name itself, the muscular tissue consists of the muscle cells and these muscle cells are known as the muscle fibers. Furthermore, these muscle fibers, they mainly contain some sort of contractile proteins and these contractile proteins are responsible for the contraction and the relaxation of the muscles. Just as for example, if I am pulling my hand, it is the contraction. If I am making it in a normal form, it is said to be the relaxation. Now, on the basis of our use, there are two major types of the muscles. First is the voluntary muscles and the involuntary muscles. So, the voluntary muscles. The voluntary muscles are the muscles which we can control on our own. Just as for example, the movement of the hand, that is in my control. So such muscles are said to be the voluntary muscles. Then what are the involuntary muscles? The involuntary muscles are the muscles which are not under our control. Just as the movement of the food inside the digestive system, then the breathing, the digestion, the respiration, that is not under our control. So that is basically the involuntary muscles. Furthermore, there are three major types of the muscles: the striated muscles, the non-striated muscles and the cardiac muscles. Let us talk each of them one by one. The first one is the striated muscles. Now these striated muscles are also known as the skeletal muscles. Now why they are said to be the skeletal muscles? From the name itself, skeletal. These muscles are mainly present on the skeleton. Skeleton means the bones of our body. These are voluntary muscles and they do get tired after the use of it. Furthermore, the cells of these muscles are multinucleated in nature. Multinucleate means what? They have a lot of nuclei inside it and they are long elongated cells. The next one, that is the non-striated muscles. Non-striated. Striated means the dark and the light bands. Now that is mainly observed under a typical microscopes. So as they are non-striated, no dark and light bands are there. So they are said to be the smooth muscles, as no striations are there. Furthermore, here the cells are uninucleated. So only one nuclei is there. And they do get tired after the use of it for a very long period of time. Furthermore, the last but not the least is the cardiac muscles. From the name itself, the cardiac, that is the heart muscles. They are exclusively involuntary. They are not under our control. So the beating of the heart is occurring on its own. So that is basically the cardiac muscles. And here also some cells, they do show the uninucleate conditions and the certain cells, they do show the multinucleate conditions also. So that's all we have about the animal tissues, right from the epithelial tissue, the connective tissue, the muscular tissue and the nervous tissue. Now let us observe the connective tissue and the muscular tissue through the animated versions of it. Well, the tissues that connect different organs and other tissues are basically said to be the connective tissues. So they connect the entire body. They are the fluid connective tissue, the bones, the cartilage, the areolar connective tissue, the adipose connective tissue, the fibrous connective tissue. Now talking about the first one, that is the blood. Let us go into the composition of it. Blood basically consists of the blood plasma and the blood cells. Blood plasma mainly consisting of large amount of water and various mineral ions. Furthermore, blood cells include the RBCs, that is the red blood cells, responsible for the transport of the respiratory gases like O2 and CO2, the WBCs acting as the soldiers of the body, and the platelets responsible for the blood clotting purpose. So these are the various cells of our blood used for various purposes. The next major connective tissue is the bones. Bones are generally hard in nature and they have the calcium and the phosphorus contents in it. In the structure, we can see very well the compact nature of the bones. So it is advisable that large amount of calcium and phosphorus should be intaken. Further, these bones, they help in the entire support of the body in order to protect the muscles and the internal organs also. There are numerous fibrous connective tissues which also help in the process of the exact connection with the entire body. They are the tendons and the ligaments. Now let us observe the connections and the places where they are located. Just as the ligaments, they are mainly present in between the bones, while the tendons, they mainly allow the muscles to get attached to the bones. So together they help in the proper contraction and relaxation of various structures of our body, whether it is the legs or the hands or various other structures. Inside the structure of a cartilage, the cells are said to be the chondrocytes. Here also some sort of flexible nature of the cartilage is there. The fluid of the cartilage is slightly mild in nature, which helps in the proper flexibility with the structures like the nose, ears, the trachea and in between the bones also. The next is the areolar connective tissue. It also has a lot of cells inside it, and it fills the spaces inside the organs and support them. These are the heart, the kidneys, and the lungs also. So these are the various locations where this areolar connective tissue is mainly present. It is also present around the blood vessels also. Next is the adipose connective tissue, that is the fatty tissues of the body, mainly responsible for increasing the insulation. It has a lot of flat molecules known as the fat globules, the fat globules which are there. They are also present at various regions of the body, responsible for the proper maintenance also. Now the next tissue is the muscular tissue. Here we can observe that a person is able to run because of the elasticity and the flexibility of the muscular tissue. So let us go into the crux of it. Now the muscular tissue mainly consists of the muscle cells known as the muscle fibers. And looking into the structure of the muscle fibers, there are three major types of the muscles: the striated muscles, the unstriated muscles, and the cardiac muscles. Let us observe them one by one. Now mainly the striated muscles, they have a striated appearance. They are long and having some sort of elongated structures. Inside the microscope, the striations like the dark and the light bands, which we will be able to observe it out. Furthermore, they help in the proper contraction and relaxation. So therefore they are said to be the voluntary muscles. So their contraction and relaxation, they occur as per our wish. There are various locations, that is the hands, the legs, face, neck, that move as per our wish. The next is the unstriated muscles. From the name itself, unstriated, so there are no striations. So no dark or light bands will be able to observe it. And the structure we can see here, that they are spindle shape, that is broad in the center and basically tapering towards the edges, and having a single nucleus also. Now as there are no striations, they are said to be the smooth muscles. They are also involuntary because the contraction and relaxation, it occurs on its own and it is not under our control. They are mainly located at the eye, the lungs, the urinary bladder, and various other locations. Last but not the least, the cardiac muscles. From the name itself, cardiac, they are mainly located towards, and it forms the major organ, that is the heart. And here also they are mainly involuntary in nature. So here you have seen the animated versions of the connective and the muscular tissue. Well, that's the end of this entire chapter, that is the tissues, where we have discussed about the plant tissues and the animal tissues and their various bifurcations. Thank you very much.